This conference will now be recorded.
Is everybody here that we need? We're good? I make a motion to call the meeting to order. Is there a second?
Lampier, second.
Dorothea? Dorothea, you're muted.
Yep, realized. Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
That's a leftover
Tre-
from last meetings.
Trustee Stetser,
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
I ask if anybody has a disclosure this evening or any kind of conflict with any of our agended items.
Lampier, I do not.
Stetser, I do not.
Lightgib, I do not. Keating, I do not.
Plummer, I do not. So good evening, everybody in attendance tonight. And before we begin, since we do have two public hearings this evening, and we're all virtual, I'm asking the village clerk just to remind us of the guidelines for public comment this evening. So Dorothea, if you could help us out here.
Absolutely. I'll go through these items one by one and we'll go from there. The public may speak only during the public comment period of the meeting or at such other time as a majority of the board allows. Speakers must give their name, address, and organization, if any. Speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer. Speakers must limit their remarks to 3 minutes on any given topic. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they may have to another speaker. Board members may, with the permission of the mayor, interrupt a speaker during their remarks, but only for the purpose of clarification or information. All remarks must be addressed to the board as a body and not to any member thereof. Speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications, and I am monitoring the village clerk email, so if there's comments for the public hearing, I will receive them there or through the chat button.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Well, let's get right to it. What was that?
I said no problem.
Oh, okay, thanks. Well, let's get right to it. What I'm asking is when the building inspector gives, when Stephen, you give your report, and also Zach, we've all really read the reports. So if anybody has questions, you know, there's just call outs for more information perhaps on some of the items. Or if Steve, if you feel there's something you'd like to elaborate on, you know, just in the interest of time, because we've all read the report. So are there any specifics that people would like to have addressed on the report from Steve?
I do. I just can't get into my notes, so I'm gonna hopefully get into my computer and come back to it. I'm really sorry.
Oh,
Just the
okay.
computer's
I
down.
have a couple of things maybe to ask. So is there anybody else before me? No? Okay. You know, I was thinking, Steve, it might be helpful because you attended the monthly coalition stormwater meeting, you know, just to talk about what that means, you know, the whole stormwater coalition and why that's important, just to bring people up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know when we became members of the Stormwater Coalition, but we are members of the Monroe County Stormwater Coalition. And basically it's a group of municipalities that are all trying to better the environment, you know what I mean? Our stormwater runoffs and control of the land that we touch. You know, we're good standing members. You know, we pay for this service for them to help us if we need, or, you know, and to comply with the coalition's kind of guidelines and rules in Monroe counties and New York states. I mean, it's about it. To me, it's a very good organization. They do a lot of educational stuff. They're willing to come into community and do educational stuff if that's something we wish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we are, unfortunately, the funding kind of ran out a while ago as far as there were grants, there are grants, and we are literally, I believe, one piece shy of being eligible of the things required to be an energy smart community.
Ooh.
So it's something that we could look into here, and I'm not so sure if we aren't part of I think we're still dealing with the energy, solar energy item, aren't we? A community solar, am I correct?
Sort of, not really. We don't have an active engagement with them as a community, but
Okay.
we've certainly been examining it.
Okay, that might be one of the other caveats to being a solar smart community, which might open us up for some grant money when it becomes available.
Oh, that's good to know about. You know what? Let's make that an action item, you know, and we can follow up on that. I'm happy to follow up on that with you. That would be
Okay.
great. Yeah, thank you. No, and thanks just for filling us in on that. Dan, were you able to get in your computer and see? No, no.
I have
I'll
a-
come back to it if
Oh.
I can. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, Renee.
Quick question, Steve. You said that you've been dealing with the issue of windows within the historic district. Is that working with HPB or on energy efficient windows? As an old house member, I know this struggle well. So what's a little more detail on that?
This is a tough subject, to be honest with you. We had a meeting last night, and Jeff was there for the meeting. It was interesting. That's the word I'm going to use. They did finally majority rule to allow 44 Lincoln to replace wood for wood. You know, there's a lot of factors. Time. I mean, we as a municipality recommended experts to go look at, you know, and this has been happened a couple of times. We recommend an outside expert to evaluate something, and we need to listen to them if we recommend them. So there's basically a split of two different venues, but in the end, the homeowner of this particular house wanted new windows that all operated, no storms, you know, the modern convenience of a tilt-in, wood for wood. And the board, I'm grateful to say, actually voted for it. Not without a lot of gnashing of teeth and discussions and research, but I personally think it's a great thing when we're talking about energy efficiency in modern times and trying to utilize the technology. I mean, we do it in every aspect of our life. Why wouldn't we also incorporate some of it in a historic district while still keeping the character that the village is trying to do?
All right, thanks. So, that is one of the things that I hear the most from people is the frustration over, because it's really, really expensive when you want to replace windows in these old historic homes. So,
Yeah.
thanks.
I said I think it was a good decision. It was a decision that benefits the residents. It benefits their pocketbook by a very large amount. I know we're not supposed to consider that technically, but truth is truth. You know, when you're going to save somebody $20,000 to put new windows in versus fixing old ones, I think that's something reasonable in life.
Well, I think you've raised questions about the balance with what historic preservation means to our village, and I think that's important. But I think what I'm hearing is we probably need some kind of follow-up action, working with the HPB and really nailing some of these things down. I know, Steve, you and I've had a discussion that there's new materials that are sort of always coming into the marketplace, and I think maybe it's an opportunity to work with the board and also with our community, so we can come up with something that I think that's realistic, but really still speaks to preservation and, you know, following our codes and laws. You know,
Right.
Any other thoughts on that from anybody? Okay, all right. Any other questions for Steve? Thank you. Yeah,
I have
go
an
ahead.
item. The town came to me today for a permit. They put up a tent in the rec center for the youth service that they do for the summer there. They came to ask for a permit again. I'm asking the board to waive the fee for a tent for that permit, to issue the permit for the town.
Anybody? Sound
Could
good?
you
What's that mean? Yeah, go ahead. Lily, thank you.
clarify what type of permit is being requested, Steve?
It's
Is it
just
a
a,
non-
it's just a permit for a tent. It's nothing, they're not asking for a municipal use or anything like that, but it's, they did it last year, for the children to keep them out of the weather because, you know, I mean, we all know what's going on still. They have to maintain distance, things like that. So the tent helped them still run their programs.
So what you're saying is they're asking for a non-municipal use permit? Is that, or is this a
No.
different type of permit? That's
Just-
what I wanted to clarify.
Just purely a permit for a tent.
I
And
see.
what, for the duration of the season?
Yes,
Like up permanently for the season?
yes, for the summer.
Okay. And could you repeat, please, where the tent will be erected? Is it behind the rec center?
It's behind the rec center, yes, in the back. It was kind of in the back left corner. Didn't bother anybody last year. You know, it's out of the way. There was never any word from anybody in regard to it being a problem.
Okay. And how do they safeguard it about the weather? You know, when weather, in a windstorm, for instance, how do you handle that as far as safety?
Oh, there's insurance. You require insurance from McCarthy Tents. And I mean,
Okay,
that's
thanks.
inspected by me and Kelly Klein.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and it's McCarthy, so they know how to properly weight it and support it, and yeah, yeah, okay.
Like I said, we typically, I mean, in town or municipal things, I believe we usually waive a fee for the other municipality. I think that's been, you know, practiced before in other items, but that's up to the board.
Any other thoughts on waiving the fee from the board?
I mean, they don't typically put this up, right? It's because of COVID, or do they normally have it up for the summer? I don't have an issue. I mean, this is good for our community.
Yeah.
The first time was last year because of COVID, because
Yeah.
of the requirement for separation for recreation.
See,
Well, I mean, I'm in favor of supporting that. I mean, if it helps them, you know, with best practices for something like that as well, you know, supporting our community and public health and safety.
So what's the action that we have to take on tonight? We need to waive the fee?
All you have to do is waive the fee for a tent permit for the town of Pittsford for the youth activities at the rec center.
Okay, I will make a motion to waive the fees for the permit at the tent at the rec center for the town of Pittsburgh.
Is
Second,
there a second?
Lightgib, second.
Is there further discussion? Jeff, do you have anything you need to weigh in on with this?
No, this is, I think, just a purely building permit item for the building department.
Okay. Okay, no other comments? Dorothea, can you call the vote, please?
Absolutely. Trustee Keating,
Still having some computer trouble, sounds like.
trustee
Oh.
Stetser,
Stetser, aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
trustee Keating, one more time. Mayor Plummer,
Plummer, aye.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for bringing that up and also for your report. Okay, next up, DPW. Hi, Zach.
Hi, everybody.
Aye.
Hello.
I do have a couple of things that I'd like to discuss. If you guys have any questions, though, I'll let you speak first.
Any questions for Zach? Yeah, Renee?
I do. How long do we have that speed sentry that's on loan? Because it made it seem in your report that it's past tense. Do we still have it?
Nope, I had to return it.
Darn, that's what
I
I
know,
was afraid you were gonna say.
We were only allowed to keep it for 45 days, so we actually had it for twice the time that they allowed
No, I thought maybe they'd give it to us longer, you know, because we're such good customers.
us. Well, she is trying to sell a couple to us.
And the data from that, you did capture the data, and is it in a spreadsheet form?
I was not able to save it though,
Well,
because there was
so we don't have it.
Nope. So Dan had asked a question at the last meeting about the data that it was collecting, and I did reach out to them to find out the answer to it, and I did not get a response. But I don't think it has like a progressive the way that it collects the speed data from each individual car. I think it must read the car, read the max speed from the car, and then it collects and then it registers that data. And that's how it collects the overall amount of cars that are traveling down through there at each day, and the max speeds reached by each car.
And unlike our speed sensory that, or the whatever we used before that we own to collect our data, it gave like a 10, it's an increment by 10, which wasn't super helpful when we're talking about the difference between 30 and 38. There's a big safety difference there. Does this one get down to the nitty gritty?
Yes, so it does read it by the mile per hour. So it is a little more specific. It does have a lot more data that it collects, I guess, in that regard. It's not quite so archaic, I guess. But it's still limited on its functionality. Overall, I thought it was a good radar feedback sign. And what I was able to witness watching the cars traveling down the road, and once they saw that it was blinking, once they reached the speed limit, a lot of cars did tend to slow down. Now, whether they stayed that speed, that 20 miles an hour or less after that, I couldn't really say for sure, but it did seem to have an effect from when they left the stop sign at Maple and to that speed limit sign.
Okay, thanks. I don't want to make the whole conversation about this because I could talk 3 hours about speed.
No, that's fine. So it is on state contract too. So if that's the way that we decided to go with that unit, I'm gonna guess that they're all pretty similar in their functionality and the data that they collect, unless we move up to something a little more professional, what like SRF would use. That's kind of what we're stuck with. But it's still data, and it can be used.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Zach before he fills us in? Dan, are you back? Can you hear us? And Dan? I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. I had a question about the drinking fountains because I was reading about the public use of, drinking fountains and COVID. And that is the issue really isn't with the water, it's COVID being on the surface. Do we have any more information about that? I don't know if anybody else has been looking into that. No?
They're closed at school. They don't have drinking
Okay.
fountains at school. I don't know if that's still the case. It was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just another touch point.
They're already petri dishes for bacteria. Not sure whether it's really good practice to promote,
Yeah.
any more COVID growth.
Yeah, I mean, I think public safety is always first, so, I'm not so sure we should activate them at this point. We can certainly come back and revisit it.
Okay.
Any
I'll
other
leave them
thoughts
out for
from
now.
people? Yeah.
I would agree with that as well. It seems like we would have to have a policy and funds allocated to regular cleaning and figure out what the best practices are. So I would agree that at this moment, it's best not to be a pioneer in opening up drinking fountains before others do.
Yeah, because I don't think we can rely on whoever, on the public to just wipe it down after a use or anything like that. I think you're right. It's really the onus is on us as a village for sure. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, so.
Dorothy already has to wipe down enough stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We all carry the wipes. I know. Okay, Zach, yeah, what else would you like to contribute?
So I've had multiple requests from residents on Rand Place Extension, the section that runs from East Jefferson to South Main Street. That section of Rand is typically used as a cut through more than people who live on the street. Currently, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. We do have speed humps that we put out there, but it doesn't always seem too effective, especially cars that it seems sometimes they drive over it faster and it's less of a bump for them. Really, it's just a noisemaker. Sometimes it's effective in controlling the speed of vehicles, but it has been asked that we look into other options for pedestrian safety and slowing vehicles down through there. As I put on my report, some ideas that they're having were installing sidewalks throughout the street to get people off the street when they're walking down through there with their kids or their dogs or just on their own. Speed limit signs are non-existent on that road. So I don't know if that would help, but a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit sign posted on that road, on a small road, I'm not sure if that would really be much better, because I think maybe with just the size of the road, the S turns that are in it, and the speed humps, you can't really do 30 anyway, I guess, but you know, some people are going to try maybe, I don't know. And then also including the speed feedback sign to be put on rotation on that street if there is a posted speed limit on that road.
Okay.
Has
Well,
it, has traffic
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Has traffic increased because of the State Street backups with the road closed?
It sounds like it, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, Jefferson, I know the traffic is increased on Jefferson substantially, so I'm sure they're cutting through there more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they are too. Well, and also, you know, I mean, Renee, you'll probably be speaking to this at some point, but we are trying to lower the speed limits in the village. Not so sure that that'll even help. I mean, maybe we need to do something further.
So that legislation, is that just for state roads to be lowered to that speed limit?
We already have the jurisdiction to lower it on the roads that we own, so we could do just like we did on South Street. But the problem is, I don't even think people are driving that fast consistently on Rand because of the speed humps. I think they're getting more traffic right now because of they're using it as a cut through because of the State Street Bridge closure. That light is like, it takes you sometimes 2 and 3 iterations to get through it right now as a driver. And the curve in the road, you can speed up, but then you got to slow down. The problem is they have people walking and riding their bikes in the street there. Yeah, so I don't know that bringing the speed limit down would impact behavior because it's already designed with a curve. We've got some speed humps. That's all I got for right now, but we can absolutely look at some temporary things. I mean, rubber curbing at the beginning to kind of chicane it down a little bit. There's all sorts of temporary things we could explore to help us through while they've got some extra traffic going through there, which might be what's causing.
So the Complaints Act is about extra traffic, not the speed?
It's a bit of everything. The extra traffic, the speed, and also not having a sidewalk to walk on as you walk.
Yeah, that's a huge consideration, a sidewalk. You know, I mean, I certainly think if there is something to address, I mean, the traffic's the traffic at this point because we have a detour going through the heart of our village. I think everybody's kind of living with a little bit of traffic change right now. But I mean, I hear what you're saying, Renee, but even if we just put in a lower speed limit, at least it's a visual cue for people, you know?
Yeah, but that takes, we need to pass a law, so that's a long.
Right.
We absolutely could do that, but it's gonna
that law thing.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there, I'm not sure if this has been considered or not, but if that would be a consideration for Rand extension, what about lowering the speed limit throughout the whole village and all village roads to 20?
To 20, like we did on South. Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah. Yes, Lily. Yeah.
Yes, I was going to suggest that we do the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit as we did on South as a mitigation that we can actually institute at this time without too much, without the sidewalks. This is something we could do without too much money. That's the word I'm looking for. And also, I don't think we would want to post a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is actually the speed limit through the rest of the village, because we hopefully will be changing all of that in a year or two to 25, and then we would be making new signs all over again. So perhaps just to put it at 25 in anticipation of the village-wide change. That's just a suggestion.
25 or 20?
Well, even as the words were coming out of my mouth and if I'm thinking of cost-saving measures, if we did it at 20, we could leave it at 20, but the rest of the village would be at 25, so we will be changing all of our 30, I'm being very optimistic, changing all of our 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs to 25, which is going to be an expense. So, but 20 miles an hour, as it is on South, I think would be a visual cue anyway to anyone entering that street who is using it as a cut through, not familiar with it, never taken it before, and suddenly, they've discovered it. And we want to make certain that they understand that what our speed limit is. Because if nothing's posted, I guess they will make assumptions, won't they?
Oh, no doubt. I agree with you. Yes, Jeff.
I think just because, and Renee can correct me, but my understanding of the proposed legislation with New York is specific streets are going to drop to 25. That doesn't mean that we can't drop the streets we own to 20. I mean, you could have both.
Yeah, I don't think that's what I was going to say too. In my mind, all the non-arterials that aren't owned by or that aren't under NISDOT jurisdiction should all be 20. And then
I support that. Yeah, I support that. I think that's really a safer way to go for our village. It's a very strong cue to see a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Maybe they'll only do 25.
And Jeff, I don't know, do we have to do that street by street, or can we pass a law that that we can, like all village-owned streets, or all, whatever we want to call them, streets under a village jurisdiction, can we pass a law to have them all lowered to 20 at once, or do they have to go street by street?
We can do one local law, but it could be, I think it ought to be street by street, because that's the way our street code is set up, I believe, to have it street by miles per hour. But it can be one local law.
And then it would identify each street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we?
Dorothea, excuse me one second. Dorothea, yes.
Not that I know much about traffic except for my experience in it, but is there a way in the meantime till we lower that, posting some like pedestrian friendly area, some kind of warning sign that we might be able to get in the meantime to try to slow that down, or just let people know?
Do you mean on Rand? I would like to know, I mean, we had some misconceptions on some other streets about how fast people were going, and we sent up SRF to look at some of the shorter neighborhood streets, and people weren't going as fast as we thought. And so we probably want some data on, we probably would like to know how fast they actually are going. That shouldn't impact our 20-mile-an-hour law though. But you mean the pedestrian signs? Is that what you're talking about?
Some kind of pedestrian sign warning families in the area, something, you know.
Oh, that's a good idea. I mean, we have those.
It seems like something we could do quicker than later.
Yeah.
Just to get the signage out at least. I hear what you're saying. Dan, you had your hand up?
Well, it was one of the issues that I wanted to bring up, and Zach and Renee, I totally agree with you. It's not dependent on getting this data, but Zach, in your report, you said you've got some new data from the custom signals on South Street. Could you forward me that data?
I was not able to collect it because it was a demo. I don't know if they shut me out, but my password no longer worked to the app that was able to access the data.
Do we have any data?
No.
We do from state, but it's probably 6, 8 months old,
Uh,
but nothing from south yet. So I was hoping to get that.
Zach, we
can-
could put ours out, can't we? The one that we own?
Yes. I can put ours out on South Street and collect the data from that.
But it only is, again, in 10 increments. So like you
Yeah.
just know someone's
Yeah.
going between 20 and 29, not, which in the higher speeds isn't as helpful.
So with the SRF study that we had done on South Street, that's very specific on what the data that was collected. I don't know if that would be enough to suffice for whatever questions you're looking for right now, Dan. Otherwise, I can reach out to them and see if they have the data available and they can send it to me. That's
Yeah, that'd
custom
be great.
sending and talking about.
Yeah, I was just I was reacting to your thing in your report on South Street, because that's the data I really want to see. I want to see if going down to 20 made any difference.
Right.
So
I'll see what I can do about
See what you
getting
can
it.
do. Yeah,
Custom
appreciate
tables.
that. And then while I have you really quick, and then we can be done with it, we can go back to the discussion. You had mentioned in your report, given COVID, should we make the drinking fountains operable? And I wanted to make sure we had talked about that. But maybe we table that. Are we done with the South Street conversation?
You're right on time, Dan.
we talked about the fountains, maybe,
Okay, you did. Okay.
well, that we decided there's a public health issue and
Yep.
not to activate them at this point.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, let's just get back to, the village-wide law potentially for the streets that we have jurisdiction over. I would support that. I think that's really a good idea. If anything, at least it gives drivers visual cues that it's a much lower speed limit because they're in a thickly settled area. Is anybody all for going ahead with this? Besides me?
I'm in support of this.
I think, yeah, Lily?
I am as well.
Yeah.
Loud
We've
here.
been talking about this for a while, and I think it's a good opportunity for us, Any other thoughts from other board members? Well, so Jeff, can we draft a law here and see what we can do and next
I will
steps?
do that.
That would be great.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll-
I mean,
And
really,
and
that
then,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
once I get it drafted, I'll send it to all of you.
hmm
And then once it ages 5 days, you can move it to public hearing if you like it or don't like it. So
Okay,
I'll get it there in time if you want to talk about it at the second meeting in April.
great. Thank you. I mean, I think in conjunction, if we can get the state road limits lowered, I mean, that's a real opportunity for one more layer of public safety, in the village. So I think that's great, you guys.
So specifically on Rand, though, for an immediate solution, do we want to talk about some things that we could maybe put at the entrance and exit, or maybe at the bend or something, particularly since it's summer and we don't have to worry about the plows? We can throw around some ideas. If you don't want to have to discuss it now, I could work with someone else and Zach and see what maybe is available in the DPW garage already that we could put out.
We can get slow signs, put those out. In fact, I think there may be a couple of slow signs out already. We can put any kind of signage that we want on our street. No cut through, something along those lines. I know a lot of the residents on the street put stuff out in their yard. The little guy walking that says slow children at play.
Yeah.
So I know everybody on the street is pretty active about trying to slow people down.
Zach,
But again,
what
like you said,
Go ahead.
it's not always that the people are speeding. A lot of the times it just appears that way, and then the noise of vehicles going over the speed humps also make it seem that people are going faster than they are. But when the speed humps aren't in place, that's that's the other part of the problem too, because the speed bumps are only there for a few months out of the year, and you know, when they're gone, people can zip through there too.
Yeah, and the tricky part is that they're having to walk on the street and ride their bikes on the street because their yards go right to the edge.
Honestly, that almost sounds like more of a concern for the people on the street than you know, the vehicles that are actually cutting through there. It's just the people being able to get off the street.
Yeah, if they had a safer place to walk, like a sidewalk, that would make a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear you. Zach, why don't I get with you about signage and, you know, we can see what's what and if we can do a little something more, at least immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about summer hours real quick for the DPW staff. Summer hours are 6 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then Friday 7 to 10, and that is per the union contract. With the detour in place, we're finding that we are stuck in traffic a lot more lately, and that kills a lot of our day is just sitting in traffic trying to get around the village. So the earlier start times really help us out because the traffic doesn't really tend to pick up till after 8 o'clock. So I'm just asking you guys to consider changing the start time on Friday from 7 to 6 a.m. and working till 10 a.m. instead of 11.
Is that, you said that's in the union contract, so do we have to like amend
Yes.
the contract or how does that work?
So the language of the contract does state that it can be modified. And this is all on what the board decides to do with it.
And typically, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, this typically kicks in every summer. I mean, this isn't, am I correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and I believe you had mentioned also, when does it typically kick in? When is that start date for the hours?
Typically, it's the first week after Memorial Day through Labor Day. And that was going to be another thing that I was going to ask if you guys would consider is starting the summer hours earlier, just because of traffic, honestly. Traffic and safety, because more cars means, you know, conditions that are unsafer for us to work in. So it's just a means to be able to get more done during the day sooner. Less time packing things up or setting them up when we're doing projects.
So what date would that be? So right now it commences as of Labor Day or Memorial Day, excuse me.
Yep.
And so what are you looking at?
So what I was looking at was the start of a pay period. The first pay period would be May 10th, or sooner would be April 26th.
Are there any other thoughts from the board or anybody want to weigh in on that? Yes, Jeff?
Zach, are you certain that you can just do it without union approval? Going earlier like that?
I can. Do you have a copy of the contract?
I don't do that. No, that would be Christian. I just think we ought to run it by Christian to be sure that's going to be okay. And I assume that the union's not going to have an objection, but I think we ought to do it the right way.
Sure. It does state that the bear with me, let me find the wording. It says, in general, the normal work week for the Department of Public Works employees shall be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The village may institute a weekly schedule of 4 9-hour days, 6 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on Monday through Thursday, with a 4-hour workday, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Friday from Memorial Day through Labor Day each year, with the further discretion to modify the schedule to provide for 5 8-hour workdays during weeks when a holiday is observed. During the summer schedule, paid time off under Article 12 shall be used as an hourly basis. I think that might be the gist of it. So
seems to me you ought to just run this by Christian real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
All
the
right.
action item is to run it by Christian and make sure, everything's lined up. And then we can bring it back to, you can bring it back to the board so we can make, a decision that's clear.
Okay.
Okay?
Who's going to do that? Is it going to be Dorothy? Is it going to be Zach? Is it going to be me?
I'll be happy to. I'm working with Christian on other items, so I
Okay.
can just follow up with him real quick.
That'd be great. Yes, Dan?
Zach, real quick, and forgive me, I'm having all kinds of technical problems. Forgive me if you just covered this, but I remember from last year, there was it one person or two people who worked a full day, on a rotating basis on those Fridays.
Yeah, so last year was the first year that we had tried that with one person on a rotation, one person out of the crew each week on a rotation of working 8-hour days. That way on a Friday, there would be someone here for an 8-hour day.
Okay. And that's still the plan going forward?
Not necessarily, it's up to you guys. That was
Okay.
kind of an odd thing that we had never tried before.
How did it work?
I mean, it's limited on what one person can do by themselves. So, there was always something that was found for them to do, and there was always someone here. But I wouldn't say it necessarily, saved the day. It's just, having someone here. So, someone was here, honestly. The funny part about it was always trying to get the person back here, because when you're out on the road working, they always had to leave the job site to be able to come back. So they, at their the end of their 8-hour shift, Monday through Thursday, which now you have either one person bringing them back, dropping them off, so two people leaving the work site to go, and then that person going back to the work site to work for another 45 minutes or so, or however long it took them driving back to the shop, or they're driving themselves back to the shop and you're losing a piece of equipment out on the work site. So.
Yes, Lily, yes.
I'm sorry to go back in time. Thank you, Zach. And I do remember that there was an extra person or a person on Fridays, and I think that was for ensuring if anything happened in the village, there was somebody that was on call, because we did have an issue at one time with no one available when there was an emergency. So that being said, I had a question. It's not germane to what we were just speaking about, but I was on my mind and I meant to ask you earlier. Could you please at some time let us know how much it would cost to have our light posts painted, because they're in need of refreshing? And I know that it's not in the budget for this year, but if we have those numbers, I think it's a good thing for us as trustees to know how much we could anticipate. I noticed the bollards and the light poles both need, and the clock all need to be repainted. I know it won't happen this year, but I'd like to kind of get it on the radar.
Did you say the clock also?
Well, the clock seemed somewhat faded. I know that we didn't have it done that long ago. I know it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It also got hit by a driver, so I wonder if it damaged it a little bit too.
But certainly, it's funny, the poles on Monroe do not seem, or North Main, do not seem to be as nearly as faded as the ones on State Street and South Main. But definitely State Street are in need, and maybe we need to address it in a rotating fashion, maybe one corridor at a time, if the expense is prohibitive.
Yeah, every year we try to get some of them done, at least part way through. And again, it's always on the radar.
Okay, good.
But excuse me, a couple cans of paint is going to be a lot cheaper than hiring somebody to come in to paint those for us. But I'll definitely fit some time in on the schedule for that.
Okay, that's great. I noticed it, and I meant to bring it up at a prior meeting, and it just slipped my mind, so I wanted to say it while I was thinking about it. Thank you.
Of course. And I'll also look into what it would cost for someone to come in and do it, if you'd like.
Anything else? Thank you. Always more to do. It's 7:15? Where are we, Dorothea?
It's 17:15. You can go right to the public hearings, or you can continue on as long as we don't start the public hearings prior to that. We're good to go. So however you want to move the agenda.
I know. Mary, how long do you think for the treasurer's report? You're muted. There you
I'm gonna
go.
need about 10 minutes,
Uh,
if that, but because I have the books and stuff to review.
Yeah, why don't we knock that out of the way and then we'll go right into the public hearing if it's 10 minutes, because there's not a lot. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go into, you said the budget,
Nope.
Pardon me? Treasurer's
No.
report?
treasurer's report? All right. Sorry, I got 2 packets over here. All right, the treasurer's report, the vouchers for approval are 20,097.70. There is not anything in this particular run of bills that is of any great concern. It's just the regular normal monthly bills. So I would look for a motion for approval.
I make a motion.
The attorney bills, I don't know if Dan's on here, if they've been run through.
Renee, that would be the second part of this. I've got
Oh, I jumped ahead,
two
sorry.
separate things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to
Where is
approve
it?
the vouchers. Is there a second?
Like Eb, second.
Okay, I'll call roll call. Trustee Keating. Trustee Stetser.
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Lampier, aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Like Eb, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, my next set, Renee. are the
Sorry,
attorney.
jumped ahead.
It's okay, it's all right. I'm just teasing you. Are the attorney bills that I have had outstanding for a while. I would dearly love to see all of them paid. I have not had any confirmation emails from Trustee Keating, so he might be able to speak to this to say which are the ones to be able to go forward or not. So that's where I'm standing with all of them. There's Osborne, Zoglin, and Hodson Ross, a total of 40,822. So I'm not seeing Dan on the screen.
Yeah, Dan, he must be having technical problems again. Yeah. 'Cause he's-
All right, so maybe until he pops back in, I can just quickly move on to
Please do.
March books. March books, and I will go through this quick because in the essence of time here. Revenues at this point from the general fund are 1,446,262.67. From them, the one that I am really kind of interested in is the Monroe County sales tax per the budget line, which is 1120. We have 42,599.10 to collect on the May payment. If the monies come in true as they have been to form at this point, I am expecting that we will be over budget in this line by about 50,000, which would still be in line, but a little bit under what our normal monies would have been prior to pandemic. So that's just a call out there for references. CHIPS monies on the next page, 3501. We've received all the monies from CHIPS that we had submitted for, which was for the T450 and for Village Grove. We still have another outstanding amount that's out there for the purchase of the new Kubota RTV, I think it's called. Anyway, we haven't paid for that, so I can't submit it, but that would be also hitting this budget. On the expenses, Nothing of particular concern. As I go through it, the total on the expenses was $1,082,749.55. The difference between both of the revenues and expenses is $383,513.12. Positive, if this was May 31st, we would be having a party because we would be well into the black for monies, but it's a little bit too early to tell, but I'm thinking we're going to fall out okay. That said, on the analysis for unreserved fund equity, at the end of March 31st, our fund balance is at 544,492.84, with still an anticipated fund balance at May 31st of 184,29.53. I am hoping that that bottom line number will be higher, but too early to tell yet. So that's that one. Moving on to the sewer fund.
I'm sorry, Mary, can I interrupt? Can we just get the board to approve the books for March if they're satisfied? Just so we have that recorded.
I'm not through with all the books. I'm at sewer fund. Do you want to do it separately by
Never
fund?
mind, I'll be quiet.
Okay. Quiet, Dorothea. All
She's
right.
been jumpy all night.
I know, she's just trying to move this stuff along. All right, on the sewer fund, the revenues are 116,580. The expenses are 126,673. This one is currently showing a deficit of 10,093.58, which is not a true number because this is only reflecting 6 months of sewer rents. We will have another approximately 130,000 that will be added into this number, making this definitely way in the black So I'm not concerned about anything on any of these numbers. And anybody can jump in if they have any questions. For the unreserved fund balance, this at the end of March 31st, we had a fund balance of $661,221.56. Anticipated at the end of May 31st is $531.21. 670, 647. I was distracted. Doesn't take much. That said, this is a real large number that the comptrollers had a little bit of an issue with. In the upcoming budget, we are looking to expend some of this money for a road project for sewer rippers. Yes, the Sutherland and South Street. All right, so that's that one. There's a capital fund. There is 63,000, of which about 54,000 of that will be paid out in May, leaving us with a balance of about 9,000 in that account, and that will be applied against the new budget for a pay down of the balance of the loan on that account. And the last of all of this is the payroll account, and that's just monies coming in and out of everybody's paychecks. So that's it. You could move for an approval of these funds. If you have questions, I'm available anytime by phone or email. Be happy to talk to anybody about them.
I move we approve the treasurer's report.
The books for March 31st.
Books for March 31st. You're right. Thank you.
It's okay.
Help me here.
Lanfear, second.
Roll call, trustee Keating. Trustee Stetser.
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lanfear.
Lanfear, aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Lightgib, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you. So going back to attorney bills, I'm not sure if Dan is in or out. If not, that will have to be a holdover.
Dan? I don't think we have them right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
We can hold it over to another time in the meeting.
Mary, I had a quick question. It's a general question. At one of our last budget meetings, we talked about the possibility of some federal aid or federal money coming in, and we didn't know if it would even happen. Do we have any intel on that?
The latest news, it's the American Rescue Plan that you're referring to. Villages will be allocated monies. We don't know what that distribution will be to us. I am understanding it is going to be substantial rumor is like 7 times what our AIM payment is, which is $9,000. So we might be looking at $60,000, $65,000. It will be payable out in 2 separate years. Not sure how they're doing the distribution and exactly how much at this point, but that's the
Okay.
latest that I have.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Mary, very much. We are supposed to be reviewing the minutes next, but I'd like to just defer that to later on in the meeting. And I would like, we're going to be bringing up the special permit application for Blue Horn Restaurant and also the Tequileria at 5 and 9 South Main Street. Do the board members have any comments before we open the public hearing? Quiet bunch. Okay. I make a
Oh, wait,
motion.
Lily,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
did, but I saw Dorothea as well, so.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's
Dorothea,
okay. I just want to make sure the applicant is present.
good point.
Let me see. I'm going to unmute caller 1 just in case he is. Mr. Parinello, are you present?
I am.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're good to go. I just want to make sure.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And Lily, you had a comment. I'm sorry.
I did, but I think we can get into it in a bit. I noticed in our packet that there was no updated information. And based on our last meeting, I know that we were to be provided with updated information prior to us reviewing Mr. Parinello's request for a special use permit. So I wanted to maybe update the board regarding that so that we're not reviewing an application to which we don't have complete information. That's my comment.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually, when I reviewed the minutes of your last meeting about that, that was one of the action items, I believe. Steve, would you like to speak to that? You know, if you've received anything in addition, yes.
Yeah, I think the only thing we were missing was one signature. I think we have Mike Newcomb's signature, but we were missing the other owner's signature, which Mr. Parinello is actually out of town. He got Mr. Kirchmeyer to, I have it on my phone. It was a text, a copy of the letter from Mr. Kirchmeyer authorizing the action.
Okay, so the other owner is authorizing the action essentially in an email?
It's he actually sent a letter. They took a picture of the letter and sent the picture to me. It just came in at, I think if Tim's there, I mean, I got it at like 5 o'clock or something like that.
Hot off the press.
Yeah.
All right. Jeff? Yeah, Jeff, I was just, you know, is that sufficient authorization then if he receives the email over his?
Steve, is that something you can print out and put in the file?
I can tomorrow. I can print it out. Yes. Or somebody has the letter itself and we can get our hands on it. It was just for the purpose of meeting tonight to making sure, you know, we had verification of the signature. I'm personally comfortable with what he gave us. It's up to the board.
Well,
Oh, you haven't seen it.
so I just want to make sure that there's something in the file that, you know, we can hang our hats on.
can Steve send it to Dorothea and then we can see it on the screen, or she can send it on to us?
I'm gonna try that right now.
Trustee Lampier has a question.
Yes,
Was I recognized?
yes, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, I needed a little clarification to exactly, and I'm sorry if we have to go over territory we've already covered, but we also have a new trustee, so I'll use that as the excuse for reviewing what we've already accomplished with this application. I wanted to clarify, is this a modification of an existing special use permit, or is this a new special use permit that is all-encompassing for 2 addresses? So if we could have a clarification so we're all on the same page regarding exactly what we're reviewing. That's a
Yes,
question for Jeff.
Jeff, yes.
This would have to be a new special permit, because as I understand Mr. Parinello's proposal, it's to operate this operation with one kitchen instead of two. And if that's what's going to happen, then it can only happen under one special permit and essentially one use. The board could continue all of the special permit conditions from each of the pre-existing special permits, with the exception of the fact that the Tequileria will not need a kitchen, because that there's only going to be one condition or one kitchen required by the special permit. So that's why it has to be a new special permit.
So a new special permit with the same conditions as the previous ones.
Yeah, except that there's only
Without
going to
the
be one kitchen.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see it.
Yeah, I can see this.
Can everybody read it?
Yeah, I can. I'm squinting a little.
Can try to make it a little bigger.
If there's the, you can zoom in on it on your particular screen too, each individual can.
Oh, look at the cat.
Oh,
So-
sorry.
Jeff, then in our packet, it says that this is a special, this is a modification. Can we still, if this is an entirely new special permit, can we do that tonight under the current hearing?
Yeah, I think that the description of the special permit is what is important.
Okay,
And in fact, it really is a modification, because you're replacing two special permits with one.
Okay, is the board good that I can stop sharing the screen?
Yes, I brought it. Thank you.
Okay.
So then it's my understanding that all of the additional information that was requested based on the last go around, the last meeting about this, Steve, now we have all the information required to proceed for the application? Steve?
As far as I know, yes, unless somebody else, if somebody else needs something or has any other questions in regard to it. Mr. Parinello's on board if you have questions in regard to the operation.
I do.
Yes, Lily.
This is a practical consideration. Is there anything, Jeff, that the board would want to have in writing that the DBA is one name? Or is it, for clarification, if it's one special use permit, should the business have one name? And that liquor authority, the liquor license is under one name?
We are not going to get involved with what the liquor authority needs or does.
No, but what I mean is the DBA that in other words, we're giving a special use permit to a business and the business's name is X. Rather than two different, right now they have a little bit different names. Is it going to be under one name?
It could be you're granting a special permit to the Tequileria and whatever the restaurant's going to be, because I think there's going to be separate signage. I'm thinking, I don't know. But the point of the special permit is that it's one use. So I'm not certain that the signage matters. And maybe Mr. Parinello could address whether there's going to be one business or two.
Okay.
Yes. So there'll be two business names. So our corporation will own both, obviously, and it will be two DBAs. One will be obviously Blue Horn Tequileria, and the other one will be. It's still going back and forth, but And I'm sure it'll be just before we put the sign, the application for the sign in, either Casa de Blue or Blue Casa. But it'd be very difficult to run a Mexican restaurant called Blue Horn Tequileria, because it kind of gives the wrong impression of that it's a Mexican restaurant. You know, it shares the same space, but we're going to do a little bit different. One will be a main dining area. The other area will be a more of an appetizer dining area. So we definitely want to know that there's a separation there as far as what happens in both in the area of each one of them.
So could we grant the special permit to the corporation that owns the two businesses? I mean, I'm asking to identify the corporation, and the corporation could be the holder of the special permit.
You're speaking to Mr. Parinello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm fine with that. You know, that's kind of the way the liquor authority sees it, is they don't care what the DBA is. They don't care if there's 2 DBAs or 4 DBAs. They grant the liquor license to the corporation.
Okay.
Yeah, as a practical matter, it's the corporate entity that oversees it, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And Justin, you had your hand up?
No, it was just about that. And if that's the way that the liquor authority is handling it, it seems like it would make sense to issue our permit in the same manner.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Under one umbrella. Okay. Any other comments before we open the public hearing?
So we need to know the name of the corporation to whom we're
That
granting,
helps.
issuing the permit.
It is 9SM, all one word, NINESM Incorporated, like 9 South Main Street.
Inc. or incorporated? INC or incorporated?
Inc. INC.
Presumably there's a comma after 9SM.
No, there isn't.
Dorothy, are you making note of that for the record?
Yes, I am.
Yes, Justin?
Just one other question, and pardon me if this is discussed at the last meeting. So Steve, as the fire marshal, did you have any other concerns related to the door that was being installed or the usage of it?
No, I actually had Tim get a hold of his architect and modify the drawings to include the fire code necessary to create the openings. So I'm good with that portion of this, you know, the proposal.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Lanfear, second.
Thank you, Lily.
Trustee Keating? Trustee Stetser?
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lampier?
Lanfear, aye.
Trustee Lightgib?
Lightgib, aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. If there's anyone who wishes to speak, we ask you to give us your name and your address for the record, please. Let's give it a minute just in case there's. Sometimes it's a little slow with a virtual meeting.
I'm also happy to read comments from the public from the chat if they prefer.
Sure.
This is Peggy Caraberas. Do you hear me?
We have you,
Yes.
Peggy. Go ahead.
Okay. This is Margaret Caraberas. I live at 81 South Main Street. I just have a couple of questions for Mr. Parinello about how this is going to play out with his business. First of all, will there be patrons moving between the Tequileria and the restaurant?
I hope so. Yes, we will. That's part of the reason for the door is to be able to, not only for employees, but for patrons to move in and out, especially in the winter.
So all the meals that you're serving in the restaurant will be prepared in the basement of the Tequileria. Is that true?
No, all of the, so the 5 South Main Street has a full service kitchen, and all of the meals will be served out of that kitchen for both the restaurant and the Tequileria.
Okay, so the old kitchen, that side of the department store, the old department store is where you're preparing the food.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. And so the kitchen in the basement of the Tequileria will not be used.
It will no longer be used. No,
Okay. Okay.
It was more of a warming.
Okay, but you'll be serving maybe some appetizers using that kitchen, or?
No, we will run everything out of the main kitchen. Just a
Okay.
lot easier that way.
Yeah.
And a more consistent food.
Yeah, no kidding. That's absolutely true. The other thing is, had you ever applied for a liquor license for the restaurant?
No, we have not.
Okay.
We
I'm just curious, when you applied for the liquor license for the Tequileria, did you tell them that you would be using the other side of for in the, you know what I'm saying?
Right. No, we did not know we were going to purchase or lease that space when we initially, because we leased the Tequileria in June of 19, opened in July of 20.
Right.
And then we just have to make, so what we're doing is we have to call the State Liquor Authority and show them that we have a pass-through so that we can, and we've gone over it with them, that if there is a walkthrough, it becomes one space, one liquor license. We just have to,
so
we
you
just
need
have to
to
make
clear
sure
that
that they
up
know.
with them. Okay. And
Yes.
I
Yes,
also wonder if there's any other reporting that needs to take place at the village board level in terms of the liquor authority, you know, accessing the board to get permission or to get to explain to them what the application is being amended to. Do you know if they're going to
I
have
don't
any
believe
requirements
that.
around that?
No, I don't believe so. I believe
Okay.
that they will, we have to give them drawings of exactly both spaces and the doorway that we put in, including the fire door. And once we give them all of that information, I believe they have what they need.
Okay. The other question I have is for the board. Have you seen the design and all that we see in the packet for this meeting is the application for the special use permit. Have you seen the drawings and the all the specifications for the door and all that kind of stuff? Has the board seen any of that?
They really don't need to see that, Peggy. This is Steve, the building inspector, code officer, fire marshal for the village. That stuff comes to me for a review and approval, and then my recommendation would go to the board. Their purview is the use and the special use permit. I believe the responsibility of making sure the proper fire codes and safety is met is on my plate.
I'm not saying that they would need to approve it, but I do think that they should see what's going to be happening. That's just a request from me to let them know exactly how this is going to look, how it's going to work, just for informational purposes, not to regulate you or anything.
Yeah, no problem. I can send them the drawing. It's a very simple drawing for a doorway. And if they wish, it's not a problem. I can send it to every board member.
And we can also, it's a matter of record anyway, as part of the entire application, am I correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Also, Dave's asked a question. I just want to, it's easier for me to say something versus keep typing. But yes, Dave, there has to be a separate fire door for each wall and with fusible links in case one goes off, the other one will also close. That's in regard to the fire doors for anybody who,
Oh, the question, okay.
yep.
Yep. We have a request from Margot Foss to speak next. She can go ahead. If you're ready, she can unmute.
Thank you, Dorothea. I would like to read into the record the letter that I sent to Mayor Plummer and to the board members so that
I'm sorry, Ms. Foss, we're speaking on a public hearing for Tim Parinello.
For what?
This isn't time for that type of comment. If it's related to the Blue Horn, the application, is it?
I thought that subject was finished.
No, we're still talking on that. This is a public hearing, so I would say at this time, this is not appropriate.
Oh, well, please let me know when it is.
Okay, sorry about that. Do we have any other speakers?
Are there any other questions coming in or?
I have no emails and I'm not seeing any more comments in the chat at this time.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Lightgib, second.
Okay, roll call. Trustee Stetser?
Stetser, aye.
I do not see Trustee Keating. I'm just going to call out because we have many callers here. Nope. Okay, Trustee Lampier?
Lampier, aye.
Trustee Lightgib?
Lightgib, aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Great, congratulations.
Nope, you still need to do the motion to approve.
I know.
Or not to approve.
We're
Not
almost there.
excited.
You're right. Motion to approve. I was all excited.
Lampier, second. Did you make the motion to approve?
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure. Okay.
Second from you?
Yes.
Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, I had my hand up, but I don't want you going forward with the motion without.
Okay.
So I think the appropriate motion is to approve to replace the two existing special permits with this special permit.
And should we name the corporate entity or just?
Yes. To whom you're granting it.
Right, to 9SM Inc.
Right, correct. The important thing is that we're replacing the two previous with this one with the same conditions as the two previous special permits, with the exception of the fact that the Tequileria will not need to provide a kitchen.
Because the kitchen
Yeah.
exists.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So moved?
I should say separate kitchen.
Yes. It's being served by one kitchen. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we've got the motion and I will make the second.
Okay, so motion made, Lily seconded.
Okay, Trustee Stetser?
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lampier?
Lampier, aye.
Trustee Lightgib?
Lightgib, aye.
Trustee Keating, I'm not sure if you're current on the item and you're okay to vote.
You know what? I'm going to abstain because I missed the conversation, and then I'll tell you why in a minute.
That's fine. Mayor Plummer?
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Oh, now I can say congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All the
Thank you.
best.
Question, did you
All right.
catch Renee?
Thank you.
Did you catch Renee on that vote? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay,
I voted, Steve. I was the
Okay.
first one.
okay, sorry.
Thanks for having my back, though.
That was like the worst run of technology failing on me that I've ever experienced. The power went out, the computer melted down, the alarm went off.
Oh, gee.
It was an absolute nightmare. So I'm sorry, but I'm back and it all seems to be working, knock on wood.
Well,
So
welcome
sorry for the
back.
distraction.
Okay, moving on. We have the second public hearing tonight. This is for our village budget for 2021 through 2022. Are there any board comments up front? Yes, Jeff?
Did you want me to stay for this? I usually don't have much input into this, but it's your call.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking maybe with, we probably will have some items coming up after this,
That's fine. No problem.
in terms of comments perhaps from the public.
No, that's fine. No problem.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry, any other comments before we start and open the public hearing? No? Well, I just want to say just a couple of things very quickly. I really want to thank the previous board for hours, I know, of really diligent and thoughtful work in preparing this budget. And as you all know, I've been mayor for just barely a week. So I'm coming in a little bit in the middle of the movie here. So I'll do my best, obviously, to move this forward and give an overview about the budget. And I'm also asking my fellow colleagues who did work on the budget, of course, to weigh in as needed, for questions and just some thoughts about the budget as we move forward as needed. So, and also a special thanks to Mary Morawski, Above and Beyond, always printing money in the back room. I don't know how she does it. Yeah, right.
That's our secret.
Yeah, I know, really. I know, exactly. So with that in mind, I make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
That's our second.
Okay, trustee Stetser,
Aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Like a bye.
trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Well, let me just start out. I just want to talk a little bit about the budget general overview, which we thank you. It's up on the screen. In terms of just what do our tax dollars cover? Obviously, there's the general government support just to keep things moving along. You can obviously see what's there. Communications with our residents, our business owners, brochures, welcome packages, social media, all of that is included. Maintaining and updating our archiving system, which is critical for all of our village documents and historic records. We also do provide public meeting space and run that at Village Hall, although clearly due to COVID, as obviously everybody knows, that has been suspended temporarily. Just as an additional note, the Village Hall will be reopening in May. And Dorothea, am I correct that the governor extended the meetings? Can you fill us in about extending the virtual meetings?
Sure. As I checked today, verifying other data, I verified on the New York State website, the governor did extend the exemption to the open meetings law through May 9th, which allows us to be virtual as we are. But with talking with Mayor Plummer, we are shooting for a date of reopening sometime in May with the appropriate precautions taken.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hopeful for that. And also, as we have for years, the general government support includes obviously the collaboration between the town, which has been wonderful and ongoing for a long time, and as well as with the school district and other agencies at the county level as well. and also in terms of, holding events or any kind of community projects. Again, our tax dollars always go towards public safety, which means our building inspections, our code enforcements, parking, all of our fire safety. Again, as you're very keenly aware, transportation, as you know, we just recently passed our active transportation plan and are implementing parts of that. We also have the major project really on the State Street Bridge, which is being provided by the state. Snow removal, our plowing, our leaf pickups, all of this, all throughout the village. Street lighting, which is critical as well. Certainly our tax dollars go to culture and recreation, all of our parks, all along the Erie Canal, all of our village properties, any other green spaces that we have in the village, providing and maintaining all the beautiful flowers seasonally throughout our village business districts, the holidays, our wreaths, all of this just comes from our tax dollars. All of our special events, which, as you know, again, due to COVID, a lot of this has been suspended. I think right now we're trying to figure out how we can start to ease back into some of the wonderful events that we have coming up this year. I was speaking, in fact, with the Legion, and we are looking at doing something for Memorial Day, probably not a parade, but at least something to have a time of remembrance. And we'll be keeping our residents posted as we sort of come online, I think, with how events are going to be unfolding throughout the summer and through the fall and the winter. Who knows, maybe we'll have some type of candlelight night this year, which would be great. Again, your tax dollars go towards home and community, the brush pickups, as I said, the fall leaf pickup. I do want to speak about the fall leaf pickup for 1 minute. Typically what has happened, the leaves have been picked up in the past and they just sort of, go to the town dump there to be turned into mulch. As part of a village-wide sustainability initiative, I'm hoping that what we can do is have our leaves shredded and then bring them back into the village and have them composted for us to use here in the village to be returned to our green spaces and to be used for mulch continuing forward. To me, leaves are the liquid gold, so we'd like to keep that as an asset in our village. Again, all of the leaves, the tree trimming, planting of our street trees, improving our storm sewers, which is always ongoing. All types of municipal planning come under this as well. Again, our tax dollars do go to debt service. And typically it is for equipment for our DPW. That's a significant component of it. We still are paying down a bond that we had procured. I think we're 6 years in, if I'm correct, Mary, on the bond, 6 years on our payment back. It's a 10-year bond. So we're moving along on that. We also have debt service for settlements in terms of court cases, and also just agreements with attorneys moving forward due to litigation. So that is all part of what our tax dollars going to. In terms of just general fund budget highlights, we have some major projects that we're looking at. The South Street reconstruction, which is going to be big. It's probably going to be one of the largest road projects that we will be doing under our DPW coming up. Right now, we are setting aside funds for the design of that. It is for literally the complete rebuilding of South Street. And Zach, if I can ask you just very quickly, just to talk about just the scope of that project for South Street, because I think it's really significant for our village, and it's been a long time coming, as you've said.
Yeah, it's the longest street that we have in the village, and it was taken over by, it was a county road originally, and we had taken it over, and it's built pretty well, but it's reached this point of it needs to be rebuilt in some way. Some of the curbing has failed. We have to bring the curb ramps up to ADA standards, and some of the sidewalks where they're still 4 feet wide, we bring them up to 5 feet if possible. Some gutter work that needs to be done, and and a lot of adjustments to the drainage inlets and manholes that are in the road, which there are about 35, I believe, going down that section of down
Wow.
South Street.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a significant project and it's an important one for us because this is really, you know, a street that we own and one of our main arteries through the village. So we'll be working on that. We also are looking at, we spoke earlier about the speed sentries and looking, we've set money aside to purchase one, which I think will be very important for our village. As we know, you know, the speed limits are always an issue. No matter what's posted, it seems, but I think that's important for us. That's an $11,000 item. We also are looking, and maybe again, Zach, you could speak just a little bit to this, the drainage work that's going to be done from North Main Street. We have also Locust Street, and then the Rand Creek issue there.
Yeah, so it seems a lot of the drainage in the village is or was built around the same time, and it's the majority of it is corrugated metal pipe that seems to be failing all at the same time. And with the New York State DOT project coming up, resurfacing 96 and 31 North Main Street, we've seen some sinkholes open up. So we're going through and fixing the sections or replacing the sections that are village owned. We're also seeing these issues pop up on Locust and Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to address as much of it as possible and get ahead of it before it turns into something where we're just being reactive. Rand Creek, we have a section of the creek that is, the bank is stabilized by gabion baskets, and the gabion baskets are failing currently. So,
and that's a section by Eastview Terrace down on that part. Am I correct?
It's it would be on the Rand extension, close to 44 Rand, which is the first
right
90-degree turn if you turn off of Jefferson. And yeah, so that's another project that we're going to be working on is stabilizing that bank.
Okay, great. Yeah, you know, these are important, you know, projects. We really try to factor all of this in, and I know Zach and the DPW are really looking at, and we're going to be working towards coming up with a comprehensive plan addressing infrastructure as we go forward, perhaps quadrant by quadrant, and coming up with something that's longer term. So just turning to the general fund. Oh, you have the sewer fund up there? I have the general. Okay.
I can roll down.
Yeah, I'm looking at the general fund.
Well,
that's well, just an overview. If we were to really look at the bulk of sort of where our tax dollar, where our budget goes, approximately 50% of the village budget does go to salary and to benefits for employees to keep the show going, as we say. We certainly have another significant portion of the budget, probably about 40%, well, 30 to 40%, again, for DPW. We have also, again, you mentioned Rand Creek. Drainage projects also take up a significant portion of our budget. I did mention the debt obligations as well. Just trying to think if I missed anything for you folks. We're factoring in a new furnace, for example, at Village Hall. And one of the things that I'm requesting is we're going to have an energy audit of Village Hall so we can start to establish best practices and look at just better and more sustainable ways of if we are procuring, for example, a new furnace and eventually at some point an air conditioning system, what would be sort of more state-of-the-art going forward and more energy efficient for our building. Oh, okay, so well, I was looking, now I'm back to the sewer fund. I had a different order, Dorothea.
He's way ahead in the pack.
I know, you're pushing, you're moving me right along here. I know.
You guys are testing me. That's what I know.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, you can now, there we go.
I'm there.
Yeah, so our sewer fund is about $395,000, almost $400,000. Excuse me. We have the bulk of it comes from our sewer rents and any fines or penalties, a small amount even from interest and whatnot. We do have a sewer fund balance that where we appropriate, and this is appropriate from, we've appropriated $116,000 to be put toward, and again, Zach, you may want to chime in on this. This is the lining, I believe, on Sutherland. This is yet another big project. This is all infrastructure, and this I think is really something that's important that we're addressing.
Yeah, we're trying to get ahead and stay ahead of maintaining the sewers by going through and root cutting, inspecting, and lining the sewers in problematic areas.
And can help me out with the acronym, the CIP, the CIPP, because I know people are seeing some of these acronyms in the budget. I don't even know what that means. I know it's aligning.
CIPP stands for cured in place pipe, and it's just an epoxy impregnated fiberglass liner that goes inside the pipe and expands and dries to almost a metal-like surface.
So it's far more it's far more longer lasting than what we have currently in place. This is really
well. What's currently in place is a clay pipe, and the clay pipe has a joint every 3 feet, and every 3 feet is a possibility for roots to infiltrate the pipe, which once the roots infiltrate the pipe, then it can create backups by collecting stuff that does not break down in sewer lines. That's why they say only first coat. But
so
it happens, and so this is to take away from all the joints in the pipe and make it more streamlined.
Yeah.
Yes,
point of clarification. What it is a process where they blow into the existing pipe so they don't have to dig it all up. They blow into the existing pipe, and it's a fluid, and then it quickly hardens and becomes a hardened lining. So it's much less invasive than tearing up the whole system.
Right, yeah. Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for that clarification. That's really helpful. Lots to learn, that's for sure. Dan, did you have your hand up or were you just moving? Oh, okay. So anyway, moving along, I just want to talk briefly about sales tax. That's something that we rely on in addition to our property taxes as well. And fortunately, the previous board and Mary have gone back, and Mary, maybe you want to speak to this a little bit. You've already adjusted because we were so aware when we had the lockdown with COVID that we were going to have a shortfall in our sales.
Right. Last year after we had can't come to this point in the budget, we had got notification that our Monroe County sales tax monies were going to be significantly reduced, and the thought at that point coming down the pike from all agencies was that we were going to have a reduction of at least 20%, if not 30%. So in this current year budget, we did modify the monies down so that we would be kind of on target and in line without really hurting our bottom line, so to speak. And that has so far worked out very well. We're anticipating a final check, and I think I made mention of it in a prior presentation going over the current bills, that we are looking like we are on track. So that said, we had, the board had decided to maintain the level that we are having currently for the next budget year. So that is where the $516,000 is generating from. So hopefully these are all pandemic numbers. Pre-pandemic, it was 20% more.
Right, right. Well, I think that's important that it's more accurately reflected in the budget, and so I'm glad for that because it does give us a realistic picture of where we are.
Yeah, it helps us not to overspend for the monies that we haven't received.
Yeah, yeah. We already did speak also about the federal aid coming down. And we also do receive funds. We do receive state aid, and from what I understand, that is still intact.
That is correct. The latest news. Yeah, the CHIPS monies are going to remain the same as they have in the past, so that is all good news. The American Rescue Plan will be impacting our new budget as well, but because I do not have a number at this time, that money can't be incorporated until we actually receive it and a budget modification can be made.
Great, thank you.
And
Yeah,
just the only other last thing I think in the revenues is the property taxes that you may want to talk to.
well, the property taxes, we're glad to say, are flat. There's no significant change. In fact, the entire budget is really essentially a zeroed out budget. There is no significant increase from last year. And again, I applaud the previous board and Mary for working so diligently on towards that end. I think that's important because let's face it, it's been, you know, difficult time, not only with COVID, but also with some outstanding debt due to litigation. So the total appropriations are 1.583898, and our property taxes are 883,698. And breaking that out, and our other revenues total 700,000. So we're just under a $1.6 million budget. But I think going forward, good work's been done, and I look forward to public comment and any comments in addition right now from the board. No comments from the board? Then I make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Trustee Keating.
Yay, Dan finally got one in.
Yeah,
Good to hear your voice, Dan.
I don't
Trustee
want it.
Keating. Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Lightgib, aye.
Trustee Stetser.
That's her eye.
Trustee Lampier.
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Motion passes, thank you. The hearing is open. If there is anybody from the public who would like to comment, please state your name and address for the record. The comments are limited to the public hearing relative to the 21-22 budget. Also, if you have questions, please feel free to put them forth for Dorothea.
Okay. Let's see here. Justin Vleischer would like to speak, so I'll open up for him.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make a few comments on the budget. First of all, you're talking about some drainage repairs, and I know I've been asking for something like 5 years to fix the problems on the street on Boughton Avenue and also on Wood Street. Right now, after the road was paved on Boughton, water has to flow uphill to get to the drain in the street and downhill to get to my basement. So I think you can guess as to where it likes to go. I've been talking to trustees about trying to get this addressed for years. Likewise, on Wood Street, there's significant drainage problems because there's no channel on the street to direct water to the drain, and instead it goes into people's yards. So please add these to your list of things to fix, and I would encourage you to update your drainage budget, drainage repair budget. Second of all, last year I know I talked to the board about this, about over allocation of funds for attorneys, particularly for regular business. That seems to be what definitely occurred and is definitely occurring in this budget. It looked like for regular business between the trustees and HPB, they're allocating something like 1,000 hours to attorneys, which sounds completely out of line to me. And I understand there were some issues in last year's budget when you're looking at it that it was unclear as to what attorney bills were for litigation or for regular business or for special projects. So I'm wondering if the trustees were able to sort that out for all the boards, and so that they can make good projections going forward as to what the attorney bills are going to be for regular business, special projects, and litigation and so on. So it looked like in this budget, for Mr. Turner in particular, you've allocated 118,000, and over the 6 months of last year, granted COVID occurred, only 25K was spent. So it looks like, based on those projections, you over allocated attorney funds of about 68,000. And it looks like that continues in this budget relative to what was spent in the last 6 months, which may or may not be accurate. Likewise, I'm looking at your sales tax revenues, and it looks like relative to what it was in 2019, you're estimating a 22% reduction in sales tax. And I don't think there's any evidence to support that amount of reduction in revenue estimates. So just from these two numbers alone, it looks like you have errors in your budget of almost 200,000, which would, that number alone would allow for, close to a 20% reduction in property tax, which is pretty much offsetting your property tax increase last year. I'm not asking you to do that, but I think these two items in particular, and I'm not even factoring in state aid and federal aid that may be coming in with this COVID relief. I really think there's some significant errors in this budget that need to be addressed and to be brought into line with accurate estimates. Thank you.
Dan, you have your hand up.
I just want to address the attorney's fees. Thank you for bringing that up, Justin. Really appreciate it. The challenge, we had a couple challenges there, and you hit one of them right on the head, which was COVID. And we had anticipated doing another round of code cleanup. So we had already implemented the new code, and then we were going to live in it for 6 months to a year, and then make some revisions after people like you had used it. We didn't do that because of COVID. So I want to say that was 25K right there. It might have even been more that we had budgeted for that. The second reason it was budgeted a little higher was because we had badly missed in prior years on the 75 Monroe litigation. And so we went extra conservative, and we felt appropriately conservative for budgeting for 2021. And the good news is we don't think that all got spent. So that is definitely good and made up for some shortfalls in other areas. The last thing, and this is an ongoing challenge, and I would love people's help with this or ideas around it, because I don't quite know how to solve it. We have to do the budget. Mary, I think we start doing the budget in like January. We don't have even yet 60% of the year's data of what we actually spent in legal fees before we have to start estimating for the next year. So we're not going off of actuals. We're going off of our projected actuals, and it makes it very difficult. And so we do our best, and there's definitely areas for improvement in there. So thank you for raising that.
Mary, before you speak, if I just may add, it's my understanding that it's actually the attorneys that submit their estimates going forward in terms of ongoing work that they're doing to help prepare this budget. Am I correct with that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, and we there hasn't been accountability of those attorneys, and I get the reasons why. They're making a guess and they don't really know, and then things come in that they have to deal with, and we are managing that and that kind of thing. But in most cases, we accept what the attorneys have said, but we scrutinize it. And then last year, we changed it dramatically to account for the fact that the last few years they had way underestimated. So we raised it.
Thanks for that. Mary, did you want to add anything?
No, that is correct. I can just say that under the regular budget that Justin, you could refer to from tonight's handouts, under the March numbers, under law, the law categories for all projects, municipal and special projects, are broken out by category. So you know how much we spent on that particular item per category, if that helps you out. Otherwise, I can talk to you offline at any time regarding the numbers that are there.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, or Dorothea, are there any questions?
Can someone address his, Justin's comment about the sales tax? Because we are anticipating that that's going to be low again. We don't really know what to predict. But I didn't know.
Yeah, I think we did speak about it earlier, maybe perhaps, I think before
Yeah.
Justin joined. Mary, do you want to talk again about how you were looking at, everybody was looking at the sales tax?
Yes, I had contacted Monroe County sales tax people. I've talked with the NICOM. I've talked with the comptroller's office. I talked with our personal CPA that represents the village of Pittsford. All of them have basically said to me the same thing. Maintain the 20% lower number that we have had, that we've used in this particular budget for the upcoming year, because the trend does not seem like it's going to be changing anytime soon, given all the factors that we know that are going on with COVID. That said, we had done just that. So we essentially kept our numbers relatively the same.
You know, I was just thinking when we met earlier, the bright note about the mortgage tax in the village with sales of properties.
Oh yeah, we did lower.
Not declined.
Yeah, well, when we did the budget last year, we did lower a lot of the revenues to compensate for what we were anticipating that COVID might bring. Mortgage tax and all of that was a big surprise, because we did lower it by a lot. And when we did get our first payment in December, it actually came up more than our budget number. So I reinstated it back to the number that we've been using throughout the history.
Okay, thank you.
That was the little surprise in this year's budget.
Yeah, yeah. Any other comments from people? Dorothea, is there anything coming in? No, okay. Oh, you know, I do want to say one more thing. Justin, if you're still on, I'm going to follow up on what's been going on in Boughton. I know Zach, that's been a concern too. And, you know, maybe we can, you know, address that and talk about a strategy, because I know that has been ongoing.
Okay, we have no comments. I've received no emails. Do not see any chat notifications at this time.
Okay. Well, then I make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Trustee Keating.
Okay, Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser,
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Plummer, aye.
motion passes.
Thank you to both boards for helping out with this budget.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen at this time.
Thanks, Dorothea. Let's see. Okay, where did we leave off here?
We can go back to minutes, or we can continue on the agenda items.
Why don't we continue on the agenda items then? So the next item is pedestrian safety, yeah, at North Main and Shane.
So do you want me to take this one?
Yes, please. I know, because we were talking about, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. And Zach, please, I'll need your assistance here too, because I wasn't in that meeting that you and Mayor Corby had with DOT. But we're getting a lot of residents, both from the village and from the town, pointing out the pedestrian issues put forth by the temporary light at Shane Place and North Main. And then we're also having, as Trustee Lampier received a few people talking about people crossing at Shane and State. And the drivers, of course, aren't stopping there, even though there's a stop sign, because the bridge is closed, so they just keep going. And I know that we requested that DOT put a temporary temporary crossing at State and Shane Place, and they said, no, we want the pedestrians to go under the bridge. And we said, people are going to cross anyway, but they said, nope, we're not going to put a crossing there. And then at the temporary light at Shane Place and North Main, we now don't have any phasing where the pedestrian has a safe time to cross. And you and Mayor Corby requested that they put put a temporary walk signal there with the temporary light, and it was denied because it didn't meet the warrants of the MUTCD standards.
Can you explain to people what the MUTCD standards are?
Those are the design standards that all the DOT uses across the country, all the state DOTs, and those are federal design standards, and of course they're outdated. They're actually updating that right now under the new Secretary of Transportation. But they're designed for vehicle flow, just like everything else right now, and not with the pedestrian or the context in mind. So the whole idea is to keep the vehicles flowing, the vehicle traffic flowing. So we were denied that walk signal there, which would help if they phased it so that the pedestrians could cross before it turned green, with those people turning left.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what, we clearly need to go back to DOT, but I didn't, because I wasn't at that initial meeting, I was going to hand it over to Zach to provide any sort of input that we might need to fill out my story here.
Yeah, anything to add to that, Zach? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really a meeting. It was just an email inquiry that I sent over to the engineer. And yeah, you verbatim, you said exactly what his response was, that it didn't, per MUTCD standards, it was unnecessary to have something like that there. And it was just kind of a wall that we hit at that point, and I'm not sure of, which way to go after that. It's still an issue, and it's going to be an issue, especially as summer progresses and more people come out. The cyclists haven't even really started yet, and that's their crossing. That's what they're supposed to be crossing. They're not directed to go under the bridge, they're directed to go over the bridge.
Right.
And every day I watch people dodge and kind of jerk back and forth, waiting for their chance to run across the street in between cars. It's a dangerous situation.
Do we know what it takes to meet the standard that they're saying we don't meet? Do we know what that criteria is?
I don't know exactly what that is. I'm guessing it depends on what they see fit for it to meet.
The phasing of the light, because it's only a left turn there,
right?
Is what they're claiming. There's not enough, but I believe it's based on volume. And I mean, I think there are some easy fixes if we provide some temporary solutions that would allow us to get around the pedestrian signal idea if we got a little creative. So I don't know, do you usually work with Josh, or who do you work with, Zach, at Regional DOT? Nice.
It seems to be whoever they I don't know. There's no set engineer that I work with over there. It's just whoever is kind of part of the project that's ongoing at that moment.
This is what I'm proposing, that right now we're going to take this offline, and Renee, Zach, and I, let's just at least kind of get together. We have to go back and talk to DOT. We have to figure out a strategy. Just because they said, no, we're not going away, because we know the season's coming. It's just going to be more active in both areas, really.
Agreed.
So, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, rather than, tie up the meeting with this.
Yeah, we can talk.
Anybody who wants to speak or has a comment?
Mayor Plummer, Mr. Reynolds would like to comment about Shane Place.
I'm not sure the DOT might not realize how difficult it is to make that crossing. If you're on the west side, there's no light you can see. There's no pedestrian light. There's no traffic light that you can see. You can't see. Theoretically, you could see the light on Main Street, the light facing the northbound main traffic. Theoretically, you could look at that light and you'd know when it's green, you can't cross. But you cannot see that light because it's blocked by a left turn only sign. So you can't see any light at all. And I think if DOT, if you could explain that to DOT, how dangerous it is for a pedestrian wanting to cross, that might help.
Why don't we have them meet us at the light and have them cross? I mean,
During-
really a site visit, you know.
And they
Friday
are,
at noon.
yeah, they're supposed to be touching base with us about any of the issues that are coming up with the detour anyway. So we just need to be the squeaky wheel here, and there's some, we have ideas.
No, I'm right, exactly. No, I mean, I'm ready to squeak, and I think Mike made a good comment, and you know, so anyway, the three of us, let's get back with each other and come up with a game plan that's a little more aggressive.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Let's see. Why don't we go to member items? We'll just drop down. It's maybe. Do we need to do minutes tonight, Dorothea?
That is a board decision.
Yeah.
If you'd like to table them until next meeting,
Yeah,
fine
maybe
with
if we
that.
just defer them, because, you know, just so we click through the other items, so it's not getting too late.
Yep.
Yeah, Renee?
Oh gosh, it's mine again. Okay, I'll be quick. The end of March, Mayor Corby and I attended a short meeting with NISDOT about the possibility that DOT has. They're exploring funding to replace the deck on the North Main Street Bridge as part of the resurfacing. There's already resurfacing scheduled for Route 96 in 2022. So if they can secure funding, it would mean that we'd have an opportunity to make that sidewalk wider and make some other improvements, because they'd be demolishing and rebuilding the deck of the bridge. They don't yet want to speculate too much at this point until we know that they have the funding to do the project. So it's not going to be a big rehabilitation like the State Street Bridge. It would just be the decking. So we should know by fall if they get funding, and in which case we'll refer to our active transportation plan, which they already mentioned, and they would roll in the resurfacing work again that's going to already be happening on Route 96. Then the second thing is there's supposed to be a road restriping meeting at some point about or in conjunction with the State Street Bridge rehabilitation. So I don't know, and some of the other pedestrian improvements that are happening. And I don't know if Zach has heard anything or Dorothea, but given that we've had a change of mayor position, we might want to just reach out to Josh at NISDOT to make sure we don't miss an opportunity to be at that restriping meeting. So those are, I had two DOT items. And then do you want me to keep going, or are there any questions about those two things?
Keep going.
All right, sweet. Nothing has changed with the speed limit legislation because we're still waiting for the assembly to change the language in their bill and amend it. So we don't have an updated amendment or bill number for that. So we can't do the home rule legislation or updated home rule legislation until we have that assembly bill. Senator Brooks, legislative assistant, is reaching out to them again to try to encourage them to hurry that along. And then the second thing is that the bike share, we're just waiting on the town is working with Hopper, because there's only technically one location that's village jurisdiction, and that's the one in front of town hall. The other bike share station is going to be at the library, but that's town jurisdiction. So Paul Schenkel is working with Hopper. So nothing has really changed, but since we have two new people around the table, I just wanted to make sure that I gave an update on those two items. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Are there any other, yes, Dan?
5 member items.
Yes.
Okay. I'll try to be really quick. Chamber of Commerce meeting this morning. A couple things you guys should know about. They're looking to do outreach to new people who have moved to the village, and so they're always looking for a process to get a list of when properties change. And Bill Smith said they handle that in the assessor's office. And they do that both because that's a good way to do it. The assessor's office, because it's accurate. And the assessor's office handles both the village and the town. But Dorothea and your team, if there is a way that you guys keep track of this and it's easy to let the chamber know, great. If not, we'll try other means.
Typically, Dan, just so you know, the information we get on those changes comes directly from the assessor's office. So
Okay.
I think they would be receiving the same thing we have.
Same boat. Okay. They do want to talk to you and do a state of the village, town, and schools, and that will happen at some point. I'm sure you're on that, Elisa. I'll put this up on my own trustee Facebook page. There's a virtual wine event sponsored by Via Girasol and the Chamber on April 22nd that they'd love some publicity for to draw people to it. You mentioned candlelight night earlier. They are tentatively planning to do a quote unquote scaled down candlelight night, but they haven't really defined what that is yet. And they're sort of in the it depends mode. What could we do to celebrate? I don't even think I have to say what the reasoning is. It's all COVID related, but everybody cherishes that event. So they're going to see what they can do. They're planning. We'll see. That's the chamber report. Elisa and I did receive just for transparency's sake, an outreach from Krista Marzo at PCP who wants to have breakfast, and we're trying to get that scheduled. We have, reached out to our lawyers and said, hey, we're going to do this. He is not bringing a lawyer. Our lawyers did not tell us not to do it. As we talked about in the last meeting, this is a listening session only. We're just going there to hear what he has to say, and we will report back to the board.
There will be
Mary,
everything will come back to our board as appropriate.
Yep. But our attorneys are aware. It's just going to be him. He said he comes in peace. Mary, question for you. A couple weeks ago, this is just a follow-up item. We talked about getting a detailed bill for Walter Critchley on Jefferson Road about water consumption. Did that get sent to him?
Yes, I sent it to him the next day.
Super, thank you. Just wanted to close the loop on that. Two lingering things from our last meeting. One was on Zoom versus GoTo. Alerted both the PZBA and the HPB, and they both said, sounds good to us. So those boards are also aware of there may be a possible change. So Dorothea, now I think it's in your court to let us know when that, I'm happy to price it out if you want, but let us know when the GoTo contract expires.
Okay, if that's a concern for the board to stay that long, I mean, given the issues we've had with the deaf community and everybody involved, I think a switch sooner than later sounds more appropriate.
Totally agree.
I support
totally
that.
agree, but I don't want to spend, I don't know how long the contract is for with GoTo.
It wouldn't be a month. I think the time frame is like a month or two. It's really, we're
it's
not
not a year or
talking.
two. Good.
No,
That's kind of all I needed to know.
I did a year. That was all I did.
Okay, then we'll proceed with that. And then the last question is for you, Elisa, and the trustees around the social policy, and just wanted to, social media policy, and just wanted to keep momentum on that.
Well, what was the question?
Well, the question is, what are we doing? Maybe this is an offline meeting that needs to happen.
Yeah, okay. Dorothea, you distributed the current policy?
Yes,
Everybody
I did.
got a copy of that? Dan, why don't we sit down with Dorothea and also Marina, because they've been handling social media, and talk about any thoughts moving forward about that, and then bring that back to the board if there's any recommendations to be made?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that.
Thanks. That was all I had.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Plummer, we have a couple comments in chat. Would you like me to read those to you?
Sure.
Okay. This first comment, Dan and Elisa, shouldn't the board approve your meeting with Chris D, and what will be the items of discussion? The second comments from David Ferris. What is the purpose of the meeting with PCP, VHPB, and PCBA? We're scheduled to meet with PCP last Friday to hear a new proposal.
For me, the intention of the meeting is just simply really to extend cordiality. There's no negotiation. It's nothing more than, this has been going on for a long period of time. I'm a new mayor. It's really essentially, I think, something, to be cordial. I'm not negotiating. There's two boards that are already engaged, and they're doing what they're doing. That was my intention. Was simply, as Dan said, to listen, nothing more than that. And I think with anything like this, I think I certainly have an obligation to keep a door open. So it's like, we're all ready to listen, that's my stance on that. Jeff, is there anything you would like to add to that? I mean, just simply saying hello and a cup of coffee. I have no intention of negotiating with him without, bringing our board in, and we have two other boards that are already engaged in a process.
I remember I don't represent the board on that process, so I really wouldn't want to be commenting about what you should or shouldn't do. And it sounds like to me that Dan or you or one of you ran this by your attorneys and they've dealt with that issue. I mean, that's what I heard from what I've heard tonight.
And the board you represent, they're working with Mark for moving things forward, is my understanding.
There has been a proposal to Mark IV from all of the boards, and we have not heard a response to that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks for that, because I'm still getting up to speed on where everything is.
That's what I know about that process right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Lily, yes.
I just have a quick question for Dan. You stated that you heard from the attorneys. I did not see any response from the attorneys.
No, they didn't respond. No.
So they have not yet responded.
I reached out to them and said, if you have any problems with this or challenges, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to have a cup of coffee with Chris DiMarzo, which is perfectly appropriate.
Okay. Or, I certainly can follow up with a phone call to them just to make sure, for sure. Okay.
I would feel better if we had at least heard back from them, because we're assuming that no response is a
right.
Yes.
That's why I just said I'm going to make a quick phone call and just make sure, get the email, this is, I agree, Renee. Thank you. Thanks for that.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. We have more chats in there. Does the board want me to continue reading these, or they're all dealing with the issue with Mark IV?
Okay. Well, first of all, are there any other member items from the board? Okay, then.
Read away.
Evidently.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm picking up at the right spot. Doesn't a meeting of the trustees with the developer undercut the two boards who have the full responsibility for the project approvals?
In what way? I'm sorry, I don't even know how to respond to that, because we just said what the intention was of the meeting. And I will state again for the record, we are not meeting with Chris DiMarzo to negotiate anything. This is simply, I'm a new mayor. This has been an ongoing process and project. And I feel that it's in the best interest, really, just going forward with a new administration, to say hello to someone who's been involved in this project in the village for over 12 years, and to just simply have a cup of coffee.
The next comment is the village resolution said there would be no meetings except with a full board.
Is anybody aware of that resolution? Do we have a copy of that? I've never seen one.
We've had a lot of meetings without the full board. Bob's had a bunch of them.
I've never seen one, but I mean, maybe there's something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I am certainly not aware of any of that.
May I ask
Lily,
for clarification? Is the question actually, I'm trying to ask for clarification of the question. Is the question that previously the whole board voted as to whether representatives would meet with the applicant? Or is the question that the whole board, because that's impossible,
You're right.
meet
Yeah.
with the applicant? Because that would be a public meeting.
it would be publicly
So
noted.
I'm not clear about exactly what the question is.
Right. The question that was typed was village resolution said there would be no meetings except with the full board. So I'm taking that is that the full board would be meeting with Mr. DiMarzo, that there would be no individual meetings.
I don't know of any such resolution. Does anybody else know of a resolution?
Do not.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm sure it would be binding anyway.
I'm sorry,
Dave
Dan.
Okay, Dave Marshall comments, I believe there's a strong risk that this may undercut the positions of the other boards and that there may be appearance of impropriety, which is the standard by which the public could consider these actions to be inappropriate. In advance of a meeting, would it be appropriate to determine what is required by members of the board regarding disclosure? Could the meeting be recorded? Furthermore, might it be appropriate that another member of the board, someone other than Dan, meet with PCP given the discussion of prior non-disclosed public meetings?
No.
Well, you know, I think we have to have, and actually, I believe you all received my response to Renee's email that I think, you know, this is an opportunity, certainly amongst all of our boards, not just this board, to educate and have a training session on what disclosure means and when we need to disclose and what recusal means. And Jeff, I believe you were copied also on that response, that email. I believe it was yesterday, maybe. And, you know, that we just have even a sort of a mini training session. So we really do understand what disclosure means. You can meet with people as long as you are diligent about the nature of the meeting and what was discussed, and you bring it back to your board. And as I've said again, I'll state again, there is no negotiation, and there will be full disclosure from both me and Trustee Keating about the nature of the meeting, and it probably won't even be that long a meeting. To me, it's just simply a hello, here I am, know you're working with other boards, we're hoping to get a positive resolution for everybody. You know, I don't know how many ways I can say that. And
yeah, and to Mr. Marshall's point there, I documented well what my meetings were and submitted it for the record. Dave, if you want to look it up, it's dated September 24th, 2019, which details every single face-to-face meeting that I've had with Friends of Pittsford Village or Mark IV. I think the last one that I had with them was 6 weeks after the first time I was elected. But all that details in there, so there's no.
And impropriety really would be, and I think that's important that we target that specific word. Impropriety would be when you never disclosed, you didn't really share the information, and you did not bring back this information to the board or certainly as a matter of record for the public. And so that's what we're here to do. We disclose what we do, we keep it transparent, and we bring it back to our board and to the public. Anything else?
This is David Ferris. I'd like to speak if I could. Yeah, I'm still puzzled with the purpose of the meeting by trustees with the developer. Was the mayor aware there was a meeting scheduled last Friday of those two boards to meet with the developer and hear a new proposal?
Yes.
Though I think by the action taken last Thursday, those boards learned Thursday evening that meeting was canceled. I can't believe the developer is coming to meet with you just to have a cup of coffee and say hi. They're coming to make their proposal or see what you would agree to. But the trustees have simply, let me finish. The trustees have simply no role in the determination of the remaining aspects of the project. And I think by suggesting you're going to talk with them
delays of true discussion to get to a resolution that those boards have tried the last 3 years. And contrary to what was said during the election, there were meetings, there were communications multiple times, multiple hours by those boards, if you talk to those board chairs, in good faith, with the developer not coming forward with any change of the mass or size or scale of the project. The court decisions in December basically vindicated our board's actions.
Yes.
100%. And the developer knows they're going to come back at a smaller scale. So I don't see how the trustees inserting themselves over those boards help in any way. And I think it does potentially open it up to further litigation of interference with the actions of those boards. I just can't see how it adds anything.
Thanks.
You know, I thank you for your comment.
Can I
Personally,
answer?
if Chris
Okay.
DeMarzo were to come to us with a proposal at the meeting, I would leave the meeting. He is in a negotiation with the two boards, not with me.
Well,
and
he's
with
not
the
negotiating right
trustee.
now. That's the point. And you're disrupting the
I didn't hear.
process.
Dave,
You
thanks
should
for
let-
your.
you should say to
No,
him,
I appreciate your input. I disagree because I've been in meetings with developers in other states and other projects. And I've never actually had this kind of feedback, because when you have proper disclosure of what you're doing, I cannot imagine that there would be in any way, shape, or form any interference at all. He's negotiating with two boards. Good luck with that.
well, he's not. And my point is the
Well,
best
the meeting
thing the
was canceled,
trustees
Dave.
could
I don't
say.
know why it was canceled. I don't know. I'm not privy to that. This is between the boards and the applicant.
Well,
So
Dan's
Dave,
the one
you
that
started
communicated with us.
you started the with a simple question. You didn't understand what the purpose was. Well, the purpose was, direct communication. Let's try that. I've been advocating literally at every single meeting to sit down face to face with the developer. This is a difference of opinion. This is a difference of approach from the previous administration, and so be it.
Well, they
Again,
have
we're
met
going to
with the
follow up with the
developer.
attorneys, and I appreciate your comments. We're going to follow up with the
Let me just
attorneys
make one final
and make
so.
sure that we're on track. And the next comment, please, Dorothea.
The best thing this board could do is say to the developer, go meet with those boards, come forward with a plan. We support those boards. That's the best, most powerful thing this board could do. Any other discussion beyond that is only delaying this and causing conflict between the trustees and those boards which are charged with those approvals.
You made your opinion clear. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes,
This is-
Dorothea.
Dave Marshall, I'd like to speak.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm a member of the Planning and Zoning Board of it. And with regards to a meeting with PCP, I find it as a significant risk to the negotiating process that we're currently engaged in. And if I may, in addition to asking your own PCP attorney as to whether or not it may be a good idea, I would suggest that you ask for the opinions of the attorneys of the independent boards by which you're charged to support. And if they should suggest that it's a good idea, then perhaps consider it. But if both boards, attorneys who represent them in the litigation currently underway, that it is not a good idea for independent members of the board to act independently from board approval, right? You may want to consider otherwise, given that you're charged with supporting those, both the planning board and the HPB.
Thank you for your comment. Appreciate that very much.
Any thoughts on it?
Dorothea,
Any thoughts on the comment?
I'll reflect on it. I appreciate your input.
Any thoughts from other board members on that comment?
Very clear. Thank you.
Oh, very clear. Thank you.
That'll be the end of it.
Thanks, everybody. We're done with member items. We'll do the minutes next time. I make a
That's fine.
motion to adjourn the meeting.
No.
What?
Very.
Oh, what did I
Mary.
miss?
The
Oh,
attorney
Mary.
bills.
Oh,
The attorney bill,
We're coming back. You're right. So sorry.
unless you want
sorry.
to hold them off till
Thank
tomorrow
you.
night.
Thank you.
Let's hold
Okay.
them till tomorrow. I should have more information by then. I'm not going to have everything, but I should have some of it.
Okay, I'd like to get them paid because it'll reflect better on our monthly status of where we're at. Thank you
So
very much.
tomorrow, though. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, first thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Mayor Plummer, I think we have another chat, and I think there was a general public comment session at some point during our meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I just saw it pop up there. Hold on.
Yes, we have a chat request from Margot Foss. She wants to read her letter into the minutes.
Okay. It's the letter
Thank
that
you,
was
Mayor.
sent to all of us.
Thank you, Mayor Plummer, for your April 9th reply and your stated willingness to engage in environmental and conservation issues important to our community. I'm glad you appreciate the efforts of Frog House and Barefoot Permaculture are trying to implement. While I recognize this must be a challenging time as you get a handle on many new issues, it is unfortunate that it has resulted in the previously approved permit for our Forest in a Nutshell Part 2 sustainable demonstration project being indefinitely postponed at a moment when time is of the essence to its success. In an effort to resolve this issue as quickly as possible, I requested to be on tonight's agenda. While I'm disappointed that my request was denied, I would like to provide the following information in hopes of cooperatively moving rapidly to a resolution. Close scrutiny of the New York State seeker regulations indicate that the previously approved comprehensive plan for the 7 acres of village land is fully consistent with seeker and that a type 1 environmental review is not required. The actions taken so far are beneficial and we want only to further improve the property. 2, the milkweed overseeding project on the northwest quadrant village property designed to stabilize the soil and provide habitat for monarch butterflies was stopped on day 1 of the new administration. 3, the project actions proposed are environmentally beneficial and consistent with the guidelines of seeker. To ensure its effectiveness and to increase the likelihood of success, repeat support of the permit needs to be implemented tonight. We request the board turn its attention to this issue for 3 minutes tonight and bring the permit to a vote to either approve or rescind it and move forward to items that surely more imperative than fighting sustainable progress. A Frog House and Barefoot Permaculture are non-political entities and simply want to advance the interests of a world that is being destroyed by heedless development at breakneck speed without adequately considering the needs of the environment. We have no enemies, although others may have enmity towards us, and we seek win-win solutions that all involved can tout as successes. As the Department of State Office of Planning and Development states on their website, the Office of Planning and Development increases resilience and sustainable growth of New York organizations, academia, governments, including development, natural resource and social service agencies, and other stakeholders. While sustainability is a worthy goal, its success is ultimately up to those of us working in partnership at our local level. To this end, we remain open and
You're a chunk and a half.
Pardon? I have one more sentence and then I'm done. And willing to work cooperatively towards achieving success, but again, emphasize that time is of the utmost importance right now. Please help us help our community.
Thank you so much for reading that into the record. I'd like to bring a question back to the board about when and I'm trying to get the words correct, the milkweed overseeding project, when that was approved and what that plan is. This is a question for the board members, please.
Oh, it was.
Is there a record of that or?
The question again, we should ask the question again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
There's a question about a project that this board approved called the milkweed overseeding project.
Was that the one right at the end of March this year, or was it a prior one?
I don't know. I'm the new kid.
Okay, so was it a non-municipal use permit?
Yes.
Okay, I see. I don't know the date of that. It was a year ago.
Oh, not the permit.
I'm unaware of a non-municipal issued for that. The only one I know issued to the Frog House and the permaculture was recently for the little the garden spaces for the sustainable gardens is my understanding with the concept with the nursery for the trees. I don't know of a milkweed project. Maybe it wasn't called out as that. I could be wrong, but that's the best my memory
Oh,
is.
we would, okay, thank you. No, I mean, I'm just wondering if there's a record of approval for this project to be conducted on the public land. I mean, I just don't know because I'm trying to come up to speed here. But I did, Dr. Foss, I did send a letter back saying that our code enforcement officer will be reaching out to you first thing tomorrow to follow up on everything because, we've had significant correspondence. And I think also our board is aware of some of the disturbance and the events that took place just within this past 10 days, well, 2 weeks probably at this point. Jeff, as attorney, would you like to weigh in or have any thoughts on this at this point going forward?
I don't remember a milkweed project. And my impression is that the building or the code enforcement officer, stormwater officer, same person, and our engineer are in the process of evaluating to recommend what has to go on here at this point. And they're the experts, and we've got the board ought to listen to them.
And so again, my response was in an email back that they're going to be reaching out to you tomorrow. I agree. We all want to, resolve things and move things forward. We're very excited about anything we can do to support our environment. And so with that said, thanks for reading that into the record and we'll be in touch. Thank you. Any other thoughts from the board? Again, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I have one question before we do.
Okay, I'm not gonna make a motion to adjourn. Yeah.
Sorry. I know we closed the public meeting on the budget, but did we vote to approve the budget or is that what tomorrow is?
No, Dan will be approving the budget at our second meeting in April as we usually do prior to our organizational.
Okay, all right, thanks. I just wasn't
Tomorrow we're gonna just regroup and make sure we're moving forward, based on everything that happened tonight.
Okay, thanks. Then I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Trustee Keating?
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser?
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Lanfair, aye.
Trustee Lightgib?
Lightgib, aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes. Good night, all.
Thanks, everybody. Good night. Take care.
Good night.
Night.
Night.